We're finally back. It's update time.
We have a shock package change.
Wait, I haven't seen the motor in this.
Engine in, trans in. Yeah, so the motor and trans are in.
Well, let's roll this in here. There it is. Whoa.
Yo guys, what's up? This is Brandy from the Terra Crew. I'm the one who's doing all of your guys' shipping. I'm the one answering your guys' emails. Just want to show you guys the new merch that we're going to be dropping this week. We have our Drive Like Hell tees in burgundy. We have our classic black right next to it. And we have it in a tank top since it's really hot out, guys. And these are our national racing team Go Hard or Go Home hats. And we just wanted to let you guys know that we listened. Our new shirts were fitting a little bit smaller and now these shirts are definitely true to size. So go ahead and cop those, please.
Hey guys, episode, I have no idea, but we're finally back. It's update time. I've been a little baby lately and I'm like, I don't want to see it yet. I'm not ready, you know, not working on it. We actually put the truck on hold. I'm working on a couple other projects, trying to get a couple other things lined up. Things are flowing, things are happening, things are back on track. We wanted to be able to provide you guys with timely updates like we used to, and me kind of getting back with Morgan and looking at some stuff that they're working on, but we're getting really close. I know we've been saying that for a while, but I think I'm really passionate about this project, and Morgan wants it to be done a certain way, and so do I, and he's stopped me from doing some really dumb mistakes. This is to answer everybody's comments. Where's the truck? What's going on? I seen today, like somebody said, like a GoFundMe. I'm like, no, we're good, guys. I love you guys. Progress is happening, but I think that's the thing about us pre-runner guys. Like, I don't have the budget of these crazy race teams that have round-the-clock people working all the time on things like that. I couldn't commit to this truck the way that people think. How do I say this?
You're just a teacher still, and you're just not, you know, that's a very expensive vehicle we have here.
It's hard, dude. Like, people are like, oh, you guys are rich. Show us something we can afford. Bro, if you guys have seen how long it's taken me to build this, you can see how many years it takes to build.
You can have a bunch of caged leaf spring Rangers by now.
So many. So this is a special project again. I don't want everybody to think like, oh man, it's gonna be so nice, but you're gonna beat it. Well, yeah, you're right, I am. I'm gonna beat the shit out of this thing. But this is why we gotta do things right, like get molds ready, address every type of concern that could be a concern. Rant over. Morgan, let's get to work.
I'm gonna start the rant now. So on my end of things, there's a lot going on here. Part of running a business and taking on projects is being able to manage projects properly. James's truck has been on a hiatus for several months. That's a co-op between him and I. And now I'm in a position here where I need to finish this last, call it 30%. The finish for me is at least just getting this thing to powder coat. And now that we're back on, what was really helpful and I think worked even on my end is to have James come out consistently, have stuff, you know, updates where we talk about what we've done, why we did it, and then what we're doing next and what we plan on doing. Then boom, we come out again, we have another update doing the same exact thing. So now we're back on. You guys can count on this thing, and this is kind of what I call with James the final bout here for finishing this thing.
Finish him!
We're gonna kind of talk about the updates since you guys last saw it, which I believe was after the Off-Road Expo. Just talking about like taking the back panels off, talking about what we're gonna do, you know, putting the pods inside the interior, winch stuff, just kind of that angle with things. So we're gonna cover, I kind of have made a small list here of what I've done just to kind of jumpstart myself. We have a big list on the whiteboard of everything that needs to get done, but I don't think we need to cover all that right now. We just need to go through where, you know, what's been done, where it's at, where it's gonna go till next update. The first thing I want to cover is the interior. Cut to a part of James going, it'd be cool if we had something beep boop 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 dee doo doop doop.
You do your thing, but I'm thinking like doo 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 doo.
This is what I'd call a display cowl, and then upper control console. With the 12-button switch pro that goes in here, that's why it's kind of dug out. And you guys can see there's Alcantara on there and stitched. That's just a proof of concept. Did I jump the gun on that before the truck's being final assembled? Absolutely. I just wanted to.
It's
see.
very motivational though.
Well, there's an upholstery guy that comes here to do some other stuff, and you know I had it done. It doesn't need to be powder coated because it's aluminum, so I felt like it would just be nice and inspiring to see what that looks like. There's not a lot of space in the dash here, so I figured putting the display where everybody can see it, where this is still open, it won't feel like it's claustrophobic, and it won't fill out, you know, you still have open chassis. And then everybody can reach these buttons from here. Well, at least driver and co-driver can. And you can read all the instrumentation too. So it just seems like that's the right spot. All this stuff is removable. Everything just comes out. And then there's also kind of a void under here to let some of the heat out. And you can put stick lights under there. Sick lights.
Sick. Behind design.
Underglow.
Yes.
You know? So there's a switch pro that goes in here, 12 button, and then that'll operate the whole car. So
I love this, man. Shoot.
The other thing we talked about and James mentioned is trying to reconfigure the rear seats to a 3-seat where like a larger adult can just be in the middle. I think that's something for another update to kind of configure that. We should just get through what's been done right now.
Wait, I haven't seen the motor in this.
Oh yeah, the motor's in. The motor's in. Engine in, trans in. Yeah, so the motor and trans are in. Excuse us for this because it's been a while. And I don't think James is, yeah, well, I mean, you haven't been here for a while.
This is exciting.
This is gonna be a good edit.
It's cool to look through here and see the AFR heads right here.
Yep.
Look at that. Look at that, Tim, at AFR. Look at that. It's happening. See, guys?
As far as the fabrication goes, the forward fabrication here is chunking out some of the bigger stuff, and I just want to go on a quick tangent because one of the things that needs to be modified here is the belt system and the accessories on here. What was there, I kind of banked on that being okay based on like starting the final assembly with the engine in here now, and the accessories such as like the power steering pump, you know, the alternator, all the stuff up front. There's some things that need to be changed, and when I go through that and get that finalized, I'm going to add an AC compressor, however that works. And so it doesn't have to be a huge AC. It can be some small unit, but I'm going to put an AC in here straight up. So one of the big things on the truck is we modified the bedsides. Glass Tech did some modifications for the bedsides that we had on here. Fiberworks did the front clip. They did the rear. The bedsides were like a flat top. This is more like a trophy truck style.
Rise,
opening.
yeah, like a rise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to really get this, the back needed it because when the back not only hit full compression but also articulated, that tire went above sea level, you know, through the fender.
Right.
And then James was like, well, what do we do? Do we reshape it? Can we modify these? And like, there was just no real way to do that where it made sense. I hear little Jesse.
Hey, Jesse James. How are you, son?
Travis.
Hi, Scarlett.
Hi.
Hi, Mom.
Hi.
I have a dear friend, Mario, who's a professional clay sculptor for the automotive industry, and he's took it upon himself to come here, you know, on the weekends and stuff, and sculpt out the rear bedside how it should be. So that means we've sacrificed one of the bedsides and built on it, and I kind of built a fixture under it to make it rigid where we can just pull it off the bedside mounts and then bring it down to Jason. He is going to...
Jason McNeil.
With Fiberworks. He's going to scan the whole bedside in the computer, flip it, and then mill out, you know, the foam so they can make molds off this thing. And then we'll have replaceable molds, and we'll have proper fenders. So if you kind of look, this is what we have right now.
Whoa.
So Mario's done countless things for huge manufacturers, automotive manufacturers, and this is kind of their process to get the right shape. You can see there's some surfacing done here that's close to final, and then there's some just build up.
Great.
But you can really see, like, we opened up the opening where the shocks are, put a significant raise in here with carrying the body line through. But that raise, you know, it really mimics what's in the front, and it carries the language through. And it gets this done without having to kind of build off that flat top. What this also does is on the top, there's a lot of surface up here. Look at that tape, Mark.
Yeah.
The surface up here is going to go all the way to the chassis, and it'll just be a cutout for the shocks, which you can see this isn't finalized yet.
Right.
But we have a big opening here that's like scalloped. That's going to breathe. That's going to cool shocks. That's also going to cool the exhaust, which is going to exit here.
Okay.
And there's also a big opening here, which is going to be an exit opening through the bedside. And you can see where this is going to go. So now the bedside's going to go all the way to the chassis. It's going to enclose the whole front so no rock splash is going to hit the back window. And then the only panel work that's going to get done is just going to be from this chassis tube out to the bedside. And that's it.
Okay.
And we're done. So that's all going to be sealed.
Wow. It's my first time seeing that.
I know with,
That looks
with
awesome.
James and I, it's been hard to communicate this thing, and I'm like, just trust me, this is the,
Yeah.
this is the most optimal thing we can do. And with Mario, I trust him enough where I didn't need to take like a rendering and show it to him. I just said, here's what we have in the front. This is what we need it to carry through the rear, and he's just done it and gone for it. So when this thing's surfaced, it's a very kind of hard, dense surface. We're just going to pull this whole thing off, and we're going to kind of put it on a pallet, bring it down to Jason McNeil, and then they're going to process this digitally. They're going to flip it, and then they're going to be able to replicate fenders for this thing over and over again, both for the driver's side and the passenger side.
Right.
So it's a pretty exciting process. It's wonderful to have Mario come help, and he's kind of been in the off-road world and like a fan of this stuff for years and years. So having him have his hands on it is really cool.
I was kind of like looking at some of his other work that you had showed me, and
yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean
it's like Hot Wheels, dude. It's like real life Hot Wheels.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean it's crazy that big automotive manufacturers, it's still a thing they do because you can refine the surfaces really easily. Like the clay is so malleable that if they look at it in a studio, they can kind of wrap this with silver where it shows all the highlights. Silver doesn't really reflect, it just shows highlights and shades. So they can wrap it, and then they can like look at how it hits, and if they don't like it, they can pull it off, and then they can adjust it really quick, just to subtle, even if it's a millimeter, 2 millimeters or something, and go back and find that final thing, because things in real life feel much more different than how they would digitally on the computer.
Like looking at this thing from the side, it looks great. It looks well shaped and everything, and then you kind of come to this angle, and you can kind of see it like fly out so much, and it's just like an RC car. Like I don't know, like
the whole truck, anyways.
Well, I don't know. It's so crazy
because
because
look here too, James. Like from there to there, look at the mirror closed out here.
I mean, I didn't hate my other fenders. I was fine with them, but the thing is that it wasn't going to work with the size tire we're going to run, which we'll get to very soon. Originally, what we were going to do is run the 37s, right? But with, like Morgan said, with all the articulation and everything and the way it's set up right now, it's like, dude, I would have been blowing those fenders out. And then what happens with all the other work we would have to do? So if we were like, well, if we're gonna make some sort of mold or something, of course we got to work with our buddy Jason at Fiberglass. But on top of that, how can we make this project as custom as possible? And I think Morgan and Mario just absolutely crushed it.
Go back there for a second. James has a strange thing about popping the back windows with rock splash.
Broken windows,
like,
dude.
He's like, can we close it off? And I'm like, trust me, it'll be closed. Trust me, it'll be closed. Yeah. So that's what's going on here is, bypass will run here, and then this whole surfacing will be smooth and kind of cut out right for the shock package. So we just have that small opening, and then like I said, this whole thing will draw out to the chassis, and then you'll just have an exit path for dust and whatever else and heat. So you'll get proper airflow and aero through there with closing that whole area off.
Insane.
There's like careful thought into like there's different surfacing in here, or there's a cut into there like a scallop to break that up. What we'll do is we'll take the rear bedside to Jason McNeil first, and now we're gonna say Jason because now you know. Another thing I'd like to do is to add some design into this thing. This does not have molds, so it's not something they can just replace, and we need to have molds made so it can be replaced. But before we take it down there, we'll let them have the bedsides and get to work on that. And then I think what we should do is add like a big opening on the rear portion of like the top wheel opening, just like the bedside, so it kind of flows and it has
so it's
like
consistent.
Yeah, and it doesn't parachute, right? Because it's such a big clip, like you actually will get parachuting. And then also adding some kind of opening and some ducting for the cooling.
Okay.
So I mean,
does Mario have any ideas?
He does, and that's why my marks on here are from when Mario's been here, and I talked to him about what we want to do. So soon a couple days he's gonna come and he's gonna finish the bedside, and then we're gonna move to this. But at least that can be transported down to Jason. We have a shock package change. So James got the other wild hair, and I think it's like we've already gone this far with the truck, and I think that's what it is. It's just like, well, what's not optimal? Like what would you want if you wanted this to be ideal? And I think running a bigger shock package, it had a 3.5 bypass in the back, 2.5-inch coilovers all the way around, and a 3-inch bypass in the front. So we're just going to go to the big package. We're working with another company with that.
Possibly, right?
Yeah.
Are we?
Well, that's why I'm not.
Are we? I don't know. Maybe we are.
That's why I don't know if it's going to be a 5-inch bypass or a 4.5-inch bypass.
You guys can guess in the comments, but we are literally at a crossroads right now. Do I have my other shocks from another company completely ordered and ready to go? Pretty much. Proper fitment done by Morgan and Roy. ODR kind of handling that. But an opportunity came up and nothing's set in stone, but we shall see. But all in all, it's a different shock package.
Yeah, end of the day, we're just going to run a bigger, proper shock package, 3-inch coilovers all the way around. the biggest bypass you can get in the back, a 4-inch bypass in the front, and then also upgrade the bump stops in the rear to a 2.5 instead of a 2, which is back there right now.
Okay.
It's not going to affect the paneling because we're upsizing, so it's really just making a bigger notch in the panels that are done, and they're just can bump stops, so it's just cutting the plates off and putting new plates on. It's not the end of the world. Trans is in, engine is in, upholstery, electronics housing, shock package, so that's all stuff we talked about. Fender sculpting we talked about. New bumper, push bar, winch. Super Winch is working with us. They're actually going to work with me with a couple trucks in here, but James is the primary interest here with Super Winch. So they gave me this huge, just big, just
Yeah, pull a trophy truck out of a ravine type
or
of winch.
three.
Yeah, or 2 or 3.
So
yeah.
They gave us a 10,000 pound winch, and it's a large unit. It's something where it has like a bracket for a receiver, you know, to go into a hitch. It's just so big that it's not. What we're gonna want to do with this is not have those receiver squares front and rear. I can't suck that one. So
Right.
what we're gonna do is have the winch be on a military quick release pin on the side of the chassis on the driver's side. The jack is on the passenger side, so the provisions for the winch will be on the driver.
Okay.
We'll unpin the thing, and then we'll put it into another special set of pins that's the same as what mounts to the side of the truck in the front and in the back. But with doing that, you can't take a 80-pound winch that's huge and bulky, I can get it, and do that, especially if the truck's dug in or in a weird spot. You don't need
Right.
that much. So having, you know, somewhere like a 7,500-pound winch or a 6,000-pound winch is going to be more in the ballpark of putting the thing onto the truck in different spots. It's not a fixed winch.
I mean, winch in general on a pre-runner, I think is great, especially if we're going to be in Baja and Death Valley. You know, like I want to be able to help our friends. You know, if somebody else is stuck, because I'm not going to get stuck. No, I'm just kidding. I probably will.
If everybody knows you have the winch,
I'm going to be
that's the
winching.
problem.
No matter what shock package we end up going with, you guys changed the upper arm, right, to fit?
No, the upper arm just needed reinforcements. It just needed reinforcements because we took material out to clear the rack. There was some stuff with droop with this thing where the rack was, and the style and the design of the upper arm, it just didn't clear, and we put aero tube in there, but we covered that last episode.
Right,
so you'll know
right,
about
right.
that. As far as making the shocks fit, off the shelf works for the rear. The front bypass just needs custom tube placement.
Okay.
And I have that kind of layout. Roy made a mock-up. I gave him a drawing or 2 or 3 of what would work, and then he made a mock-up, and we kind of finalized that. So that's just the recipe. The coilovers will fit. Everything, it's not that bad.
Okay.
So
Cool.
that works. Stuff that you can't see right now is every little bit of sheet metal and trim that was under the truck. Like the inside looked really good, but if you'd go under there was a lot of like appendages and like extra material, unworked sheet metal areas that you don't see from the inside, but from the underside you'd see. So all that stuff's been trimmed back, welded completely, hit flush, you know,
Nice.
buttoned up, as well as the exhaust. The exhaust was just tacked together, so all the exhaust has been completely welded everywhere, including the X pipe, until it goes out the chassis. The one portion of this we need to do once the bedsides get back is finish the exhaust, but it'd be a running driving truck no matter what, even if we don't have the exit. It's just we can't do the exits until the actual bedside is on. The wheel and tire, we did go into it about the methods before, and obviously James and I had some differing opinions from the viewers as far as what kind of coating we should put on the wheels. There's a lot of discrimination about black powder coat, you know?
Yep, I know.
And I love me some black powder coat.
Let's roll this in here. There it is. Super stoked to be part of the Toyo family, man.
And the 40-inch family.
And the 40-inch
those are the
family.
tricky ones to get. The 39s are the easier ones to get, but the 40 race tires, man, they're tricky, and we got them.
Took a lot of friend connections to try to get this, but Toyo themselves were out. Even the racers were like, dang, because, you know, you guys know the whole world is slowed down, right? Everything's back ordered, everything's expensive. But with some trading and some talking to some friends, Morgan made it happen.
And here we are.
Yeah, so we have enough to get by for at least a season or two. But these are the Toyo Race 40s. You know, without question, a BFG project tire, like a KR, is the cleanest tire, especially because of the sidewalls. And the thing with like a BFG 40, they're a lot cleaner of a sidewall. And the mud terrain just had like a really aggressive sidewall that for the truck, and
Yeah.
the look of the thing, we wanted to stick with something more refined, and the race 40s are just the perfect tire for that.
It has such a good look to it, man.
Yeah, it's very clean. It says 1350, but it sure looks like a 1250.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't look like a 13, man.
So we're working with Pacific Coast powder on the whole truck. We're definitely going to powder coat the entire chassis and body, not the doors, but just the chassis as a whole, all the suspension components, the rear axle, and the wheels. So just already got the wheels done, something we could do that we didn't need to modify. So they're just all fresh sitting over there. So we went to gloss black. The good thing, as soon as you get past the fact that they're black powder coat, as soon as you know, let that go, the good thing about gloss black is, and it's like the same with my wife's car and my car, they are very shiny and clean when they're fresh and you clean them, and then when you drive for like a week or two, then they get to be a satin black, and then if you just don't clean them for a little while, then they're a flat black. So you actually get 3 different tones of black.
I love this way of thinking. I love it. It's perfect.
It makes sense, right?
Yes.
Yeah. You let the brake dust settle in that, you got flat black wheels.
Is this the bro science behind the black wheel?
That's real bro physics. Pat Coast Powder kills it on their quality control. You know, the wheels are completely wrapped up like they were, but
when you
see these things are wet.
Oh man, yes. So stoked. Method. Freaking badass wheels right here, guys.
They mask everything off, all the grip, where the bead lock goes and the ring goes.
I just had to do the black wheel, man.
I think it's just keeping true to the truck, you know, that red and that black theme is what we want to stick to. Is just a little bit of period correct. I mean, obviously it's a completely new truck, but having that old theme of black and red is going to be a ticket.
I just wanted it to be that way. I couldn't see it with another wheel.
We're running the Method wheel package with the Toyo 40.
I think people have been asking for a while, and there it is. There you go. Hopefully we'll have these things mounted up in the next couple episodes. You guys will see what that looks like.
We are down to our bumper push bar provisions. I put together a final list of all the stuff that needs to be fabricated, things that need to be purchased, just to get some clarity where we can go back and look at that and kind of estimate on hours and do that. And one of the things James requested, he's like, you know, do you think we can build some kind of provision for like if we race, or some kind of like nerfing, some kind of push bar into the front and the rear. With that being said, tagging it into the bumper that was here, that bumper just not optimal for the truck. Getting this thing on tube connectors instead of like it was like a slip bumper that was welded, so if you needed to remove it to service things, you had to like cut the welds off. If we're powder coating the truck, you just want something cleaner, and opting for this.
Easier to work on.
Yeah, and I'm trying to kind of go into the next phase of the work here, but with the hood mechanism, we're going to revise the hood mechanism. One of the things that was a real pain in the ass on this thing is the hood and how it flips forward. It's got a 2-stage thing. You pull the hood pins and you wiggle it out of the mini fenders and the hood pins, and then it kind of boom, and it like falls, and it just like these little tie rods like bump on the top tube of the bumper. And then you have to like, and it's shaky, and it like goes up again, and it's a 2-person thing.
Yeah.
There's a way to engineer the hinge to just be on a single pivot, and what we're going to do is just get this thing where James can be holding a kid, or do
Which I probably will be.
That's
most likely.
That's how I see it.
Dad crew.
So we'll make this a 1-person thing. Pull the pins, undo the mini fenders, and then air strut just, and it goes up, and it's done. And that's how it needs to be. So we're going to preserve like the frame that ties in like these fender washers and goes back to like where the pins are, but besides that, redo the mechanism here that's on a swing. It made sense to just do a new bumper that's stronger and makes sense for what we're doing. Another thing for redoing the bumper is that bumper ended somewhere around here. Now James talked about wanting a valance, which is, you know, a strip of ABS inspired by trophy trucks. They did it for Aero originally with like Baldwin's and Robbie Gordon. And it's kind of just a good look for trucks. It kind of cleans up a void here.
Right.
And it adds a sense of a bumper to the tube. If your bumper tube's only going out to here, you're going to have some spooky stuff with your design where it has to end because it has no other branch to go off. Especially because the bumper's exposed, so you can't just have material kind of cut up. So running this thing the span of the glass and having it contour means that we can run the valance all the way through. And you can see there's a really nice transition with the caps. and that's
Wow.
all 2-inch now. So the 2-inch ties directly into your bulkhead where your upper arms are, and that whole bulkhead is also 2-inch. It's on 2 connectors. This unit, and it's just root pass right now, so if you see the welds, they're just root welds. They are not actual final welds, so watch it. Watch it. There's a bulkhead in here, and we talked about having an optional piece of bumper for contact, if you will. What we have is like a bolt register here that goes through. It's not really in the way of the radiator or anything. That's to kind of absorb the impact up here. There's no real way to tie this into the chassis because the radiator is leaned back in there. So this tube that you'd naturally want to kind of go up through there, there's no traditional engine cage. It's a tube chassis center mount truck. It just doesn't, it's not laid out like that. So getting that load higher but back to the chassis is what we wanted to do there. And obviously this is rolled. There's bolts in here. So this thing unbolts and then there's nothing sticking out. This is all that you'll see sticking out here is just this little standoff. So when this bumper comes off, you're not gonna have like tabs or anything that's really greatly, you know, making the look of it different. It's just gonna be like a hole where the bolts register. And so this thing doesn't have to be on. We're gonna do the same kind of treatment in the rear. We don't need to cut anything off. We just need to add a provision for impact in the rear.
Right.
With that being said, that's kind of where our winch is going to go, and then it also segues into the next phase here. You know, what to expect is to have the valance on here. The next problem that comes with that is if you're going to have a winch in there and you have a valance, a thin piece of ABS hanging down, how is the winch cable going to not just break the shit out of the valance material? So then you have to have a tube structure under there that's going to accept where the lead is going to the winch, so it's not going to actually just go up into the valance. So that's what we started doing, is just sketching you know, where we're going to build this tube structure and figure out like where the cut in the valance is going to be. And so it'll look like a design cue in the valance, but it'll actually be the lead for the winch. So when you're pulling, it'll kind of have this thing where it'll ride on a tube instead of ride on the ABS. This is getting all of the big chunky fabrication that's left done, and it's not a lot.
Right.
So it's just like the miscellaneous stuff, like tabbing for the intercom and the radio. That is easy stuff, and it's just, I am doing this in a way of just eating my vegetables first, and then I have dessert later, and the dessert is the easy stuff. So it's just
well put.
I mean, I never followed that when I was younger, but it makes sense.
But
I try
now,
to preach that to my kids now.
I love it.
They're like, vegetables? The other big thing to bite off here is making that belt system, the accessory system on the engine, true and proper and working, where it's going to be functional in the truck. It's going to have to do some spooky stuff like tensioners possibly mounted off the chassis. The motor is solid mounted, the trans is solid mounted, so it's not going to matter, nothing's going to move there. But it's just going to involve another level of engineering to have that thing hey, what's up, dude?
It's another baby.
What's up, Enzo? What this is, you guys, is we wanted to catch up. Between James and I both, this is like the last hurdle, and it's been hard. I don't want to speak for you, James, but I know it's been hard. It's a repetitive thing, and now you're at this place where it's like we're so close, but it's still, it's uncomfortable. It's just getting through this final bout. You know, what's nice is having you guys along the ride here. I didn't build this truck from the ground up. You know, I don't ever claim that. Eric had a huge part in this. There's been a couple hands in this thing, but I am finishing it, and the majority of this work has been done here. And, you know, it is the first running completed truck out of Clarke Design. So it's a huge thing for me, and it's not so much a hurdle, but it's just something in my life that's a thing to complete. So I want to get you guys back up, and that's what we're doing. This is our intro to start this series again and start it back up.
Best friends.
Start it back up till it's done, and that's what we're gonna do. So I don't know if we need to close anything out, but that's kind of covering
that's it,
what we got and what we're doing.
So quickly, as of right now, what can we look for with the next update? Are you thinking like
tilt hood done?
Okay.
So, you know, it would be nice if the time you come next, this thing works, goes up, flips up, and does what we're talking about. It's Airstra, it's one-man operated. Your winch provisions, your valance done, all that stuff in the front is definitely something to count on right off the bat. If we want to get tires and wheels mounted, that would be a bonus.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for being on this journey. We're gonna close it out with the next generation right here. Thank you guys for checking out this episode. We are back finally.
Yep.
We're back on track. We're gonna get back on this